Mobile phones are evolving rapidly, getting faster and more advanced every year. The same is true for computers, which are continuously improving at an incredible pace. Trains, too, have transformed into high-speed marvels, racing across countries in record time. Yet amidst all this progress, there's one mode of transportation that hasn't sped up. In fact, it's slowed down over the years. Surprisingly, it's not because it can't go faster, but because it's been intentionally held back. That mode of transport is airplanes. Welcome back to Diverse Drive. In 1967, a flight between New York and Los Angeles took just 5 hours and 43 minutes. Today, the same journey takes 6 hours and 27 minutes, 45 minutes longer than it did over half a century ago. This isn't an isolated case. It's a trend seen across most flights. Essentially, in the past 50 years, airplanes have actually become slower. And here's the surprising part. It's not due to technological limitations, but a deliberate choice. In the past, discussions about commercial airplanes often revolved around increasing their speed, with the belief that faster planes would revolutionize air travel. This idea led British Airways to launch the Concorde, a supersonic plane that could fly at incredible speeds. However, instead of being a groundbreaking success, it turned into a costly disaster, marking the end of the dream for widespread supersonic commercial travel. Why did all of this happen? Why can't planes become faster? Let's dive into these questions. First, let's understand the basics. Supersonic planes are those that travel faster than the speed of sound, which is approximately 767 miles per hour. Anything moving faster than this is called supersonic, while anything slower is referred to as subsonic. The planes we use today are subsonic, intentionally designed to stay below the speed of sound. But why? We'll explore that in detail. The Concorde's speed was astonishing. It could cover the distance between London and New York in just 3 hours. However, while it was impressive in terms of speed, the plane faced significant challenges. One of the biggest problems was its fuel consumption. The Concorde consumed an enormous amount of fuel, 46.85 pounds per mile, compared to regular planes, which used only 18.7 pounds per mile. To put this into perspective, the Concorde could travel just 14 miles on a gallon of fuel, while normal planes could cover up to 104 miles with the same amount. This high fuel usage made the Concorde extremely inefficient and expensive to operate, which was one of the key reasons it struggled commercially. The Concorde supersonic planes introduced by British Airways were extremely expensive for passengers. Although the airline targeted high-class individuals as its primary audience, even they were reluctant to choose this option. The ticket price for a one-way trip from London to New York exceeded $7,500, a staggering amount at the time. To achieve such high speeds, the plane's design had to be compact and streamlined. However, this compact design resulted in a cramped and uncomfortable experience for passengers. The Concorde could only accommodate about 100 passengers, whereas regular planes could carry many more, making the Concorde less practical. Additionally, as a supersonic plane, the Concorde produced a loud sonic boom when it traveled faster than the speed of sound. This sonic boom caused noise pollution, limiting the areas where the Concorde could operate and further impacting its commercial viability. You may have noticed a loud noise when a fighter jet passes overhead, a sound that can be clearly heard by people on the ground. Similarly, supersonic planes like the Concorde produce such intense noise, forcing people below to endure the disturbance. Airlines were also facing financial losses because despite the increasing number of flight cycles, takeoffs and landings, their revenue was declining. Interestingly, an aircraft's lifespan is not measured in years, but in cycles, specifically how many times it takes off and lands. On average, a plane's operational life spans about 44,000 cycles, meaning it can complete 44,000 flights before being retired. When supersonic planes were introduced, they could complete a 6-hour flight in just 3 hours. This increase in speed led to more frequent flights, but it also reduced the overall lifespan of the aircraft. Despite the high investment in developing supersonic planes, most people continue to choose regular commercial flights due to the high costs associated with supersonic travel. Supersonic planes were unable to lower ticket prices because of their expensive maintenance and operational costs. The primary goal behind their creation was to significantly reduce the time it took to cross the Atlantic Ocean. While the idea of crossing the Atlantic in just 3 hours was thrilling, the ticket price could reach up to $7,500. In comparison, regular planes offered tickets between $200 and $250 and still managed to generate good profits. As a result, people preferred cheaper and more comfortable flights over faster, more expensive options. The concept of supersonic planes failed. British Airways was eventually forced to retire the Concorde, with its final flight taking place on October 24, 2003. Since then, commercial supersonic flights have been discontinued and remain inactive to this day. In the present day, subsonic planes, although not as fast as their supersonic counterparts, are still capable of flying at speeds up to 700 miles per hour. However, they are typically operated at speeds between 500 and 550 miles per hour. This is not due to technical limitations, but is a deliberate choice, as planes are most fuel efficient at these speeds. For commercial aviation, the primary goal is to maximize profit. Running planes at optimal speeds ensures lower fuel consumption, reduced operating costs, and greater overall efficiency. That's why low fuel consumption has become a crucial factor in modern aviation. In addition, airlines design their seating layouts strategically to maximize profit from each passenger. If you look closely at the seating arrangement in an airplane, airlines don't make the most money from economy class. The real profits come from business and first class. Let's take the example of a British Airways Boeing 777, which has a total of 224 seats. Out of these, 122 are economy class, 40 are premium economy, 48 are business class, 14 are first class. Here's the breakdown of ticket prices. Economy class, $876 per seat. Economy, $2,633 per seat. Business class, $6,723 per seat. First class, $8,715 per seat. If all seats are sold, economy class brings in $106,872. Premium economy brings in $105,320. Half the number of seats, premium economy earns nearly the same as economy. Now look at business class. It generates $322,704. That means just 48 business class passengers contribute significantly more than all 122 economy passengers combined. This shows that airlines rely heavily on premium seating for profitability, even though most of the plane is filled with economy seats. In the early days of commercial aviation, airplanes didn't have different classes. All seats were the same, and there was no distinction in service. Back then, simply flying in an airplane was a big deal. It was so expensive that it was considered a luxury experience. To put it into perspective, traveling by plane at that time was like going into space today. Just as space travel is currently limited to a few and seen as an elite experience, air travel was once seen the same way. And just as space tourism may become common in the future, we might eventually see economy and business classes on spacecraft too. The concept of business class in air travel has an interesting origin. In the beginning, there were mainly two types of air travelers. 1. Tourists, who planned their trips in advance. 2. Business travelers, who booked their tickets at the last minute, often just a day before the flight. Airlines preferred that passengers book their tickets early so they could manage seat availability and reduce uncertainty. However, business travelers couldn't always plan in advance. So airlines introduced a pricing strategy. They lowered prices for tourist class to encourage early bookings and raised prices for business class, which was often purchased at the last moment. This strategy helped airlines manage demand more predictably, while also increasing profits from last-minute business travelers. Over time, this approach evolved into the structured class system we see today: economy, premium economy, business, and first class. But soon, airlines realized that for business travelers, time was more valuable than money. Even after increasing the prices, business class tickets continued to sell easily. This made it clear that these passengers were willing to pay more for comfort and convenience. So airlines began to treat business class passengers differently. They made the seats larger and more comfortable, separated their section from the rest of the cabin, introduced exclusive services like priority boarding, better meals, and lounge access. Gradually, this evolved into the modern business class we see today. Now you know it's all part of a smart, profit-driven strategy by airlines. From the rise and fall of supersonic planes to the science behind dynamic pricing, Every seat, every fare, and every route is calculated to keep the aviation industry flying high. If you found this breakdown fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more eye-opening content. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.